Hi everyone, welcome to Spaced Out. I'm your host Sarah Begum, and today it's my absolute pleasure to introduce my guest, Deborah Sass. So Deborah is one of the co-founders of Space Hero, a production company producing a TV documentary series titled Space Hero, which aims to launch a contestant into space for a 10-day retreat at the International Space Station alongside professional astronauts, and this will launch in 2023. Hi Deborah, welcome to the show.
Mwah! Hi Sarah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being on here.
If we can't kiss and hug in real life, we better do it virtually, right?
Oh yes, definitely. Well, who would not want to kiss and hug a woman like you? So beautiful. So I'm really interested by your journey and your story. You're quite the inspiration, and especially for someone like me, and I'm sure many other men and women around the world. What inspired you to create a TV show that would send the everyday citizen to space? And why do you think this is significant as a move for humanity and the space sector?
The other founding partner, Thomas Reamer, actually came up with the format that we have many years ago, and he tried to get the program made, but actually through a force majeure, America, to fulfill its ISS obligations, when they actually shut down the NASA space program, they had to go and buy tickets from the Russians. And to fulfill those obligations, they took up all the seats that would have normally been sold to private astronaut missions. And so the project that Thomas had originally started almost 12 years ago in 2011 basically was like, there's no tickets. He had to give back the money, and that's how that started. When I came on board, the idea about 4.5 years ago, there was SpaceX and Boeing coming onto the market, and we thought it's a great time to start it again, and let's see. So I think it's quite obvious that, first of all, this is not a new idea. Richard Branson, Mark Burnett, the founder of Survivor, CBS, they have all tried to do similar versions of this show, and they have all failed. And I'm going to go on and answer the question that I'm sure is burning with you, Sarah, already. Why did they fail? They failed for two very clear reasons. First of all, the technology does not exist 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago to be able to have a global show. But now it does. Now you can be on your mobile phone, you can watch something in Netflix in one country and see exactly the same thing in another country in your own native language. All of this exists in real time. The second thing is none of those people ever made the space industry a stakeholder. And that's actually a critical factor in our success to get to where we are now. I hope that answers your question, Sarah.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, no, definitely. I'm also fascinated by the reason why they failed. And as you mentioned, they didn't have the technology. So I'd love to know, what technology will you be using that was needed back then, and also that's going to make this show a success and a reality?
Well, it's not necessarily any technology that it did exist in a way, but actually what it is, it's the mobile phone and the capabilities of a smartphone that allow you to consume small clips of media all over the world from going from 3G to 4G to 5G, being able to use immersive technology on your mobile phone, being able to use AR and VR and AI in every platform and every device you have. All of this has kind of culminated to make for a really great experience that we can now leverage to give the audience something cool to watch.
Some of the elements will be a secret until they're released. What can you tell us about the show?
The show is going to be like every other TV casting show that exists for the last 2 decades. It's going to be a group of people that are thrown into a let's call it a house, but it's going to be called the Space Village, where they will be filmed 24/7, where there'll be various activities and challenges. So nobody has to learn anything new. But the paradigm that we are shifting, Sarah, is that it's not about dumbing people down. It's about smartening people up. The format has been on television for 20 years. Casting show, challenges and activities. Each week somebody gets thrown out. At the end, you have a win. Again, paradigm that we're shifting is it's not about who's got the bigger boobs or who is the loudest voice. It's actually about how people work together and how we are showcasing that our differences are actually not really differences at all. And how do we work together to fulfill those challenges and those activities? My brilliant business partner, Thomas Riemer, always says that space is a reflection of how we need to work together on Earth. And in actual fact, a very famous Russian astronaut from decades ago said, if only politics and government officials worked the way astronauts do in space, there would never be any problems. Because everybody in space works together. It is a completely inclusive environment, a much smaller one than Earth, but one we could learn from.
That's beautiful. It's almost like the overview effect, but in practice for the show to go to space. I love it. So you spoke about our differences being a strengthening point, a strong point. And I believe that. I believe that that's what's missing from the industry. And what you've done is you've created a cohort of about 400 people from 58 countries representing the space industry. And they're called Space Hero Insiders, and I'm one of them. So can you please...
I'm very happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be one. Can you tell us what the role of a fellow Space Hero Insider is?
Absolutely. And for your audience, it's free to join, and they can join immediately while they're listening to this podcast or watching the video. You just go to spacehero.me, put in your email address, and then go on the journey. So there are actually, I'm just going to give you the real number because I'm a bit of a data person. So there's 458 insiders from 53 countries. It's still amazing, absolutely amazing. And all they are is the people that found us, because we've never advertised, because we're not public and we haven't launched to the public as yet. These are people that found us through various business announcements, which actually we only made one, but somehow that business announcement we made a number of months ago got translated into every language on Earth, and then therefore got, I suppose, seeded into lots of other articles. So a Space Hero Insider is exactly that. They get to be the inside, they get to be the voice, they get to be the curation, they get to be the design, they get to be the structure that we are putting together for a much larger application. When we go public and announce the application, Sarah, in the last quarter of this year, millions and millions upon millions of people will be able to enter for free. The insiders, like you, are here to help us get to that point. Does that answer your question?
That's amazing. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a great platform to have for the entire world to participate in. And yeah, I just love what you're doing. And
Yeah.
I'd love to know, what message are you trying to convey to the rest of the world through this TV show? And why do you think that Space Hero as a TV show is the best tool to achieve this message?
It's quite a simple answer, because it really is the next stage of our evolving humanity.
Mm-hmm.
To be meaningful, you have to be able to work together from a global perspective, not a national perspective. And by the way, Space Hero is much more than just a reality TV show. In fact, we are building a platform for everything from a STEAMS initiative to working agnostically with all the space agencies around the world to work with people regardless of their gender, their language, their religion, their boundaries, borders. We really want to be able to talk about the problems on Earth and how do we solve them as a global community. And the reason why the reality TV show is a great stepping stone is because it's easy, because everybody loves media, everybody loves watching The Underdog, everybody understands pop culture. STEMS or STEAM was directed by governments, and it did a great job in the last few decades, but fundamentally we are taking that baton and we're going to inspire generations of people to be better, to be more conscious, to do meaningful things. No longer are we just about a designer label, outfit, or a big social media following so I can sell lips.
So glad you said that.
It's not about vanity and fame. It's about how the fuck do we save this planet, and we do it having a bit of fun with our fellow mankind. Those are the questions that need to be answered. But you can't, climate change and social injustice and women equality or anybody equality, all of these are big problems to tackle. So you need to have a global audience and a global conversation to even be able to start them. And that's what we feel Space Hero can grow into. And as you know, Sarah, the show is not a one-off show. It is 15 seasons over the next 30 years.
That's amazing. And why do you think diversity is important in the space industry? Because everything that you've just mentioned needs diversity for it to actually happen and happen successfully.
I mean, I think you've already answered that question. I mean, that's it. Nothing will be successful unless it is equal and done on the right level playing field. I've done 500 meetings with space agencies and space companies around the world in a 2-year period until March last year. I can tell you that out of those 500 meetings I did, there was probably several handfuls, maybe less, so less than 1%, 2% of every meeting I did was there a woman of color in the room. So being the only woman, I'm almost used to that, but being a woman of color, well, I don't see myself as anything other than a business person. And it's only when I'm asked the question, which amazingly, it's now so public that everybody asks the question. But I owe it to every woman on earth that wants to get into business that I have sacrificed for 25 years or always had to be the loudest voice in the room because nobody else would listen to me. Nobody would listen to me because I was a woman and I was a woman of color, and every single person I ever worked with and worked for, except for one person, was a white man. That paradigm has shifted. And I am helping, and people like you are helping pave the way. And we have a responsibility. It's like our social karma. It's our social karma to talk out, to talk up, to talk in general. We are not going to be pigeonholed anymore. We are not just a minority. We are part of the conversation. In fact, I now sit at the table because I built the motherfucking table.
I love that. I'm laughing because I completely relate to you. I'm exactly the same wherever I go. So I completely relate. It's nice hearing it from someone else because I don't often hear this. It's very refreshing, and it's something, yeah, wow. Are there any companies that are supporting your venture? And also, are there companies that you notice within the space industry that are implementing diversity or starting to implement diversity within the workplace? And if not, what advice would you give those companies on how to implement diversity within the space industry or within their company?
There are many companies we work with. In fact, the better question is, who don't we work with in the space? In regards to diversity and cultural equality, whatever the buzzwords are at the moment, I really don't know the details because I don't get involved on that level at any agency. We work with, we are in dialogue with over 50 governments in the world on a regular basis. And many of those are developing nations, and many of those are Western countries or developed countries. And the space companies we work with who I suppose want to do that, then it's kind of easy. There's like loads of great people out there. It's a shame that you have to have a process to be able to have a quota to be politically correct. Wouldn't it just be better to hire the best people? And if that best person is a white guy, then that's what it is. I can talk to you about our company because without even having a structure, and we actually do have a diversity and inclusion department run by a brilliant man called Shiv Paul. Thomas and I have already done that without even structuring it. Thomas and I, first of all, are joint CEOs. There isn't a decision that he makes without me, and there isn't a decision I make without him. We have divided our roles and responsibilities for what best suits our personality and our skill set. But together, we are this brilliant, strong, and powerful unit. And anybody in our company already knows that we will never be swayed against each other. We are absolutely supportive. It also helps that Thomas and I have known each other for 17 years. And we are also friends as well as business partners.
How did you guys meet?
Well, both Thomas and I come from the digital music space. So a decade and a half ago, 17 years ago, we're at all the same events all around the world. He was always on one side of the room, I was always on the other. When you go in the olden days, when you used to be able to go to conferences, if you're in a very specialized industry like music and technology or entertainment and technology, which was called digital entertainment, which is now just entertainment, right? Back then it was created, and we were part of it. We were pioneers in our worlds, in our spaces, in our industries from many years ago. And over a bunch of years, we kept seeing each other, and we'd have a cocktail or a coffee. And when he came to me 4.5 years ago and said, "Do you want to help me run this?" I was like, yes, I'm in.
When he asked you to run Space Hero, you both went on a trip around the world visiting many companies within the space industry. I would really love to know what that was like, and what did you learn from that?
I'll tell you the story of actually how it first happened, because it's very funny.
Okay.
So, before we went around the world, and we actually went on the road for 18 months, it was brutal but also brilliant. And the first event that we went to was November 2018, end of November in Luxembourg. And I literally Googled space events Europe because I knew nothing about the space business. And I come from the space business back then. And I said, "Oh my God, Thomas, I found an event. It's in Luxembourg. In 2 weeks, we need to go." And he said, "Well, what are we going to do?" And I said, "Well, we're going to have to meet people, right? We're going to have to network. Just give me a week." So I went online and I found every email that I could for every speaker at the event. There were 60 speakers. I found, I think, 35 emails. I recognized 2 names of companies, Deloitte's and NASA. I didn't recognize any other name. Anyway, I sent an email. The email said, Hi, my name is Deborah Sass. I'm the founding partner of Space Hero, a new space media company. I'm coming to your event in 10 days' time. Can you give me 15 minutes for a coffee? That was it. 28 people wrote back within a few days. And every one of those people are either supporters, on my exec team, on our board, advisors, or even investors in our company. And from that event, there were 350 people there. Those 28 people within a few days have introduced us to everybody. And there are no space media companies. And I have, as you know, a shaved head. Thomas is a 6'6" white guy with like brilliant glasses. So the two of us don't look like space executives anyway. I come in like loud and small and dark and shaved head, and Thomas is long, big person, and they're like,
long, big person. I love that.
Very, very tall. And we then went to 3 other events. So the first one was in Luxembourg. We then went to the States and met with the NASA people, the SpaceX people, the Blue Origin, Virgin, Boeing. And then we went to Singapore and we met with a bunch more people from the Asian market. And then we went to Abu Dhabi and met with another global audience. So in 1 year or a year and a half, we basically met the leaders of the space industry. We've got over 600 NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, so that basically the leaders of the space industry, the space agencies, they know some details about our project, and they're very, very supportive. Formally, we have a bunch that are formally supporting us.
So what can you tell us about how they're supporting you, or is that still under wraps?
That's still under wraps.
Okay, no worries. I'll swiftly move on. So, coming from a mixed cultural background, what challenges did you face on your journey into the space industry, and how did you overcome them?
None whatsoever. So I haven't had to I haven't had to overcome anything. People have been brilliant. They love the idea. I'm smart enough to answer questions. I built the table that I'm now sitting at, so no issues there.
Amazing. You're originally from London, like me, and then you moved to Australia, you've been to LA, Bali, and now you live on a beautiful farm in Ibiza, and you grow your own vegetables in the party capital of the world. So what is it like living there, and how do you maintain a sustainable lifestyle?
I love this question, and I'm very happy we've moved on to the farm that I share with 2 crazy Jack Russell puppies, Buzz and Armstrong. How do I maintain a sustainable life? There is no real other way. So for me, it's quite easy because necessity is the mother of all invention. I can get tons of local products, and I tend to buy only local. I live on a big property, and that property is conducive to growing vegetables, and I eat a ton of vegetables. I'm very keto, so I actually eat any vegetable that's grown above the ground, not underground. So my housekeeper and I are quite, today we were planting onions, I believe, because it's a little bit cold right now. The party capital of the world, well, unfortunately, it hasn't been for over a year now. There's been no tourism. And in fact, I hear that today they're closing the airports and the port.
Wow.
So we'll go into yet another lockdown. But we live in a very insular place because there are 120,000 people that live here full time. About half of that are expats or immigrants, as I always affectionately say. And we really associate together. We all support each other. We help each other. There's an amazing community. There's some very, very successful people that live here, including, I don't know if he lives here full time, but he certainly has a house here. The last person, the last private astronaut to the ISS in 2009 on a Russian Soyuz rocket is Guy Libeter, the founder of Cirque du Soleil.
Oh, wow.
He's a huge community builder, gives a lot of artwork and beautiful parties, and is quite a character. I've not met him myself, but I know many people that do know him.
And also one of my role models when I was 10 years ago lives there, Bruce Parry. Have you met him yet?
The name sounds familiar, but we haven't really socialized in about a year. So
what's that like? What's it like being there, being so used to the parties and the social nights and evenings, and then all of a sudden COVID happens and you're in lockdown and everything changes. So how different is Ibiza now to what everyone used to know it as before?
I mean, it's chalk and cheese. You couldn't even compare it. I think for many people that run their own businesses and that have purpose, impact, and what clearly comes from that is profit, but any real entrepreneur that is hustling and doing something, actually having to focus on certain things has been a godsend. I have literally had, both professionally and personally, 2020 was the best year of my life. And I know it's not a popular opinion, but fundamentally, the more that you have to look inside as opposed to outside, the more you realize how happy you are with the shit that you have. I mean, you don't really need loads of stuff. Okay, I have a big house and I am here literally 24/7. People who don't know me would say I was a recluse. People who know that I am on a Zoom conference call in 10 countries every day, 6 days a week. I talk to dozens of people, from space agencies to interns to our insiders to brilliant people like you, all day, every day. So for me, I don't feel like I'm not socializing because I'm constantly talking to people.
And how has talking to all these people, or before when you travel to so many countries, how has that shaped your perspective on humanity?
Well, we're all the same. There isn't a huge divide, and the more that we realize how similar we are, the better we are as a group of humanity. I've actually found not having to get on a plane and schedule meetings in other countries to be much more efficient and much more sustainable.
And what advice can you give to people to be able to reach that same sort of perspective as you?
We are all born with the blueprint of us. And actually, the more we spend searching for things, we kind of miss the signpost that the universe gives us a very clear directive. We kind of ignore it and we get caught up in what your neighbor's doing, what car you drive. Chasing the coin is what we used to call it in the 90s. We are born with pretty much everything we need, and we are perfect. And I think if your audience and your viewers are able to spend a few minutes a day kind of sitting with who they are, what they want to do, and with the right intentions. When you want to be of service, it's really easy to provide a service. When you want to be curious and help other communities or other people, it's really easy to do that. There isn't a lot of struggle out there. I understand that maybe education, money, culture, all of this is a factor. But fundamentally, we are born perfect, and we must keep reminding ourselves of that.
I love this because I have the exact same opinion as you. And during lockdown, I found looking inside, all the answers are there. It's almost like finding the universal laws within the cosmos, which is inside you, in a space that you need to tap into. And I feel like you're kind of that ilk. But I'm going to move on to another question, because as a successful executive with a very strong focus on tech, entertainment, and business, if somebody wanted to come up with an ambitious idea like yours, like Space Hero, but they didn't know how to fund it, what advice would you give them to make this project successful?
Making a project, making a huge dream, crazy, lofty idea successful is like eating an elephant. How do you eat an elephant, Sarah?
Do you know, chew it in chunks?
So you can't eat an elephant whole, you have to cut it up into little pieces. And that's exactly what Thomas and I did 4 years ago. We looked at this giant, lofty, crazy idea and we said, where do we start? We start here, and every single day we achieved another milestone. Being an entrepreneur is about consistency and it's about belief. There are leaders and there are followers. You are a leader. I am a leader, but we also need followers to execute on our dreams. But people who are followers need strong leaders. So consistency and keep going. You never, ever, ever lose faith. And this applies beautifully to fundraising, because you can imagine one of the first phone calls I did, the sweat was dripping down my back. I ring up one of the most famous people in the space industry that I had just met at our first conference. Basically, he's considered the godfather of the new space movement. And I ring him up and I tell him about he already knew, but I ring him up and I say, I need some capital and I'd like you to invest X number of dollars. And we're going to use it for this and this. And I shut up, and the sweat was probably dripping down my face by this stage. And he goes, okay, I'm in. And I was like, holy shit.
That's amazing.
It was almost like I could have spent hours, days, weeks procrastinating. What's the right pitch? What's the right this? How do I do this? This is not perfect. Fuck it. In the end, I just went bam. And as soon as he said yes, I picked up the phone to 6 more people, and all of them became investors within 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
Now, some of that is luck. Some of that is the relationships that myself and Thomas have built over decades of being in the business. But a lot of that is what we call gumption or whooshka. You know, you just got to go for it. You just got to go fuck it and just do it.
Gosh, that's freaking amazing. Are we allowed to know who this investor is?
No.
No. Okay, no worries. So, fun question.
Oh, I can tell you something that's exciting.
Okay.
In fact, I'm very proud to announce this, and we will do something a bit more formal. But I'm sure all of your space listeners know the International Space University. And you also probably all know what SEDS is, the Students for Safe and I always forget SEDS is Students for the Exploration and Development of Space, right? SEDS. Jeff Bezos was a president of SEDS back in the 90s. The founder of those two organizations, the International Space University and SEDS, these are global companies that have been around for 30 plus years. The co-founder of those organizations is one of our founding investors, Bob Richards. We are super proud to have him. He's an amazing guy. He has an amazing company called Moon Express. If somebody can see, he's literally on my wall here, right there.
That's awesome.
That's him in Florida when we first met him. He's been a supporter of the project since the beginning, and he is now an official founding investor. And it's a brilliant, brilliant win for us because he really is one of the creators of the new space movement.
How would you define the new space movement?
Non-government organizations.
And why is that important now?
Because so many reasons, but I'll highlight one that directly links to us, is that governments are not known or practicing, I believe, commercial viability. They have a very different agenda and a very different opportunity. And governments will be obsolete in my lifetime, for sure. You can see what happened in America over the last 3 weeks. You can understand what's happening in other disruptive nations and developing countries. The only true way of building up an industry like the space industry is with commercial partnerships. In America, they call them PPPs, public-private partnerships. Look at what SpaceX has done. SpaceX or NASA would never have an opportunity to take an American astronaut trained by NASA to the ISS if it wasn't for SpaceX and the brilliant mind of Elon Musk. I mean, you now have the opportunity to potentially go in a Blue Origin, go on Virgin Galactic. I mean, we will be able, again, to space travel in a much larger degree in our lifetime because of entrepreneurs, because of visionaries, because of people putting in their own money. Governments don't have that ability, and I don't believe they ever will.
I really hope this does change, but it may be a long, long time away. Fun question to finish this off, because I know you're busy.
I have an interview, and I think it's with somebody you know after this.
Okay. So, where in space would you like to go and why?
I'd actually really like to go to the ISS, but I want to go to the ISS 2.0. There are a number of companies that we actually work with, private companies. NanoRacks is one of them, Axiom Space is another, and their remit and their vision is to build habitats in space. I believe that, again, in my lifetime, we will be able to go much further than the International Space Station. But for the moment, I would like to go to the habitat that's going to be next door. The neighbor that hasn't been built yet, that's where I want to go.
Sounds awesome. Thank you so much. I'd like to go there too, by the way, so if you ever do make it, save me a space. Pun intended. Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for being on the show. This has been enlightening in so many ways. I'm really excited about it. I'm sure everyone else is. And I hope you have a beautiful day and good luck with your meeting.
Thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you again, and I look forward to the next one.